Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're taking a journey back, way back, to the very early days of Islam in Makkah. It was a time when simply declaring your faith didn't exactly bring peace. Actually, it brought down an absolute mountain of persecution. When the call to this new truth first echoed in the streets, the ruling leaders of Makkah, the very same people who had previously called Prophet Muhammad the truthful and the trustworthy, well, they suddenly became fierce adversaries. So let's dive in and look at the immense fortitude of the earliest believers who faced literally unimaginable hardships for their faith.
And this really forces us to ask kind of a profound question, right? Is a claim of faith enough without being tested? Because as we'll see, the very first targets of the Quraysh's brutality weren't the powerful elites. No, they were the most vulnerable. These were individuals who lacked tribal protection, wealth, or societal status, making them entirely exposed. The ruling class recognized this vulnerability and used it to set terrifying examples, basically attempting to crush the movement before it could even grow. Literally overnight, friends became oppressors.
Surah al-Ankabut actually captures this harsh reality perfectly. It says, "Do people think that they will be left alone because they say, 'We believe and will not be tested'?" This highlights something absolutely crucial. Simply saying we believe was not the end of the journey. In fact, it was just the beginning of an intense trial. The early Muslims had to pay a true, unimaginable, and deeply physical price for their faith. This verse served as both a warning and a profound spiritual preparation for the horrific trials that were about to come.
All right, let's move right into Section 1, the first martyrs, looking at Hazrat Sumayyah and Hazrat Yasir.
To really grasp the extreme, literally life and death lengths the Quraysh were willing to go to, we have to look at this deeply intimate, frankly heartbreaking family story. Just try to imagine the scorching sands of the Makkah desert at the absolute height of the midday's sun. A prominent leader, Abu Jahl, and his men would drag this vulnerable family out into the boiling heat. They'd force them to the ground and make them wear heavy iron armor, which would practically roast their skin under that intense Arabian sun. It was a calculated, agonizing form of physical and psychological torture.
Now, whenever the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, passed by and witnessed this horrific scene, it absolutely broke his heart. Lacking the worldly power to physically stop the torture at that specific time, he offered them something far, far more enduring. He told them, "Patience, O family of Yasir. Indeed, your promised place is Jannah, or paradise." With those words, he brilliantly reframed their physical suffering into an eternal spiritual triumph. But the climax of this trial was just devastating. Enduring this endless torture, Hazrat Sumayyah became the very first martyr in the history of Islam. She was tragically killed when Abu Jahl struck her with a spear simply because she refused to renounce her faith. Following this, her son, Ammar bin Yasir, faced a psychological nightmare. While being tortured on hot coals, the pain became so unbearable that he was actually forced to verbally utter words of disbelief just to survive. Weeping and completely devastated, he went to the Prophet. But the Prophet wiped his tears and comforted him. He assured Ammar that because his heart remained purely anchored in faith, he was completely blameless. Okay, moving on to Section 2, the power of one word. Let's look at the incredible story of Hazrat Bilal ibn Rabah.
So Bilal was an Abyssinian slave living in Makkah, and his heart was illuminated by the message of Tawheed, the oneness of God. His master, Umayyah bin Khalaf, was completely enraged by this conversion. Umayyah dragged him out onto the burning midday sand, tied him down, and ordered a massive, scorching, heavy boulder to be placed directly onto his chest. He demanded that Bilal abandon the religion of Muhammad and worship the Meccan idols, or be left to die, crushed and burning beneath the rock.
But here's where we see the absolute power of faith. Despite being pinned under a crushing, burning stone, Bilal flat out refused to give his oppressors the satisfaction of his submission. Instead, he chanted a simple, earth-shaking phrase, Ahad, Ahad, meaning Allah is one. He resolved the tension of his impending death not by yielding, but with an iconic chant of pure steadfastness that history has immortalized forever. Thankfully, this specific trial met a really beautiful resolution through profound Islamic brotherhood. Seeing the abuse happening, Hazrat Abu Bakr intervened. Umayyah, trying to be vindictive, demanded an extortionately high price to sell Bilal, thinking it would totally deter him. But Abu Bakr paid the inflated price without a second of hesitation and immediately freed Bilal for the sake of Allah. It's just a foundational moment showing how the early Muslim community actively worked to liberate and protect one another. This brings us to Section 3, Unimaginable Trials, focusing on Hazrat Khabbab ibn al-Arat.
The cruelty of the Quraysh, it honestly knew no bounds. Khabbab was forced onto burning coals, and the unbearable fire was only extinguished by the melting fat and flesh of his own back. I mean, it's horrifying. In a moment of absolute human desperation, Khabbab approached the Prophet, who was resting near the shadow of the Kaaba. Khabbab pleaded with him, essentially asking, "Why don't you pray to Allah for immediate help? Why don't you ask for our victory to just end this suffering right now?"
So how do you think the Prophet responded to this completely desperate plea? Well, according to Sahih Bukhari, his face actually turned red. You see, instead of just promising an immediate kind of magical end to all their suffering, he contextualized their pain. He spoke about the sheer scale of steadfastness required by previous nations. He described how men of faith before them were buried in pits, literally sawed in two, and yet they still didn't abandon their religion. He was teaching Khabbab, and really the entire early community, that the path of truth, it's always been paved with monumental sacrifice. Which leads us to our final section, Section 4, the eternal lesson, cultivating sabr, or steadfastness, today. So what's the big takeaway from all these epic historical struggles? It's that true faith requires immense sacrifice, not mere verbal claims. The early Muslims endured unthinkable pain just to hold on to their truth. These historical narratives, they urge us to remember this profound level of sabr. When you face modern hardships, these stories are designed to anchor you. They remind us all that the very foundation of this faith was built on an incredibly resilient, unyielding steadfastness in the face of the darkest storms. These early Muslims, they didn't just survive persecution. They used it to forge a faith that quite literally changed the world. So the next time we face our own modern hardships, we kind of have to ask ourselves, would our faith withstand the burning sands of Mecca? If their incredible steadfastness inspired you today, please go ahead and like this explainer, share it with others who love focused learning, and let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. Thanks for joining me for this explainer.